understand that, when you truly get that down in your spirit, you begin to live differently. You begin to choose your battles more wisely. You stop picking up every phone call, answering every critic, engaging every conflict. You learn to say, no, I'm not going to lose my peace over something God already told me to walk away from. Let me tell you something powerful. When you protect your peace, God begins to multiply your strength. You stop feeling so tired. You stop walking around so confused. Suddenly you have clarity. You have focus. You begin to see what really matters and what doesn't. You begin to realize how many things you were stressing over that had no eternal value. That argument wasn't worth your energy. That betrayal, it wasn't meant to break you. That delay, it wasn't a punishment, it was protection. The enemy loves confusion. He loves noise. He wants to keep you distracted, busy, overwhelmed, because if you're always reacting to the storm, you'll never have time to hear the whisper of God. And God doesn't shout over the noise. He speaks in stillness. He speaks in peace. So if the enemy can take your peace, he can take your clarity. If he can take your clarity, he can take your direction. And if he takes your direction, he's stolen your destiny. But when you say no more, when you draw the line and decide, my peace is not for sale, everything changes. The world doesn't have to approve of your decisions. People don't have to understand your boundaries. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to stay aligned with what God has placed in you. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be faithful. And peace is a sign of spiritual maturity. It's a reflection of trust. It means, God, I may not understand it all, but I trust you enough not to panic. I trust you enough to rest in the middle of this. When you walk in peace, you walk in power. You're no longer tossed back and forth by opinions, by moods, by outcomes. You become anchored in something eternal. And let me tell you, people will notice that. They'll look at you and say, I don't know what it is, but there's something steady about them, something different. That's the peace of God resting on your life. That's the fruit of staying focused, of choosing to dwell in the presence of the one who calms the winds and the waves. So the next time life tries to shake you, remind yourself of this. My peace is not dependent on my circumstances. My peace is anchored in my Creator. And because of that, I will not be moved. You know, sometimes we think the real work is out there, building, achieving, chasing, proving. But the deepest, most powerful work you will ever do won't be seen by others. It's not out there. It's in here, in your heart, in your soul, in the hidden corners of your life where nobody else sees. That's where the real transformation begins. That's where your foundation is built, because self-work is spiritual work. There are people who will spend their whole lives trying to change their environment, trying to change people around them, trying to change their circumstances, but they never stop to change themselves. And because of that, nothing truly shifts. They're constantly moving, constantly striving, constantly exhausted, because they've never realized the secret. When you start doing the work within, God starts moving in ways you never imagined on the outside. You don't need a new relationship, a new job, a new city, or a new opportunity to start living differently. What you need is a new mind, a renewed heart, a spirit that's anchored in truth. You need to get to the place where you say, God, work on me, search me, heal me, break me down if you have to, but don't let me stay the same. Because what's the point of changing your surroundings if your soul is still broken? I've seen people chase money and end up empty. I've seen people chase love and end up lonely. I've seen people gain the world and still cry themselves to sleep at night. Because you cannot replace spiritual hunger with physical things. You cannot substitute healing with applause. You cannot fill a God-sized void with human approval. That's why you've got to go deep. You've got to face the truth about yourself. You've got to allow God to peel back the layers of pride, fear, insecurity, and pain until all that's left is who He created you to be from the beginning. And I won't lie to you, it's not easy. This kind of work is hard, it's uncomfortable. It requires honesty. It requires surrender. It requires moments when you admit, I've been wearing a mask, or I've been carrying bitterness, or I've been blaming everyone else for my wounds instead of bringing them to the one who can actually heal them. But when you get there, when you finally start letting God work in you instead of just asking Him to work for you, that's when the shift begins. Suddenly your vision clears. Suddenly you're not moved by every storm. You stop reacting, and you start responding. You stop begging for validation, and you start walking in identity. You stop striving for peace, and you start living in it. And that's when you realize something powerful. You don't have to chase what's already yours. You don't have to run after purpose when purpose is already written into your DNA. You don't have to force things when you're already in alignment with the Spirit of the living God. That's the reward of self-work. That's the fruit of spiritual surrender. You begin to attract what's meant for you, not because you're trying harder, but because you're becoming who you were always meant to be. You're no longer chasing blessings. You're becoming the kind of person God can trust with them. And let me tell you something, when you focus on doing the inner work, everything else begins to line up. The right people come. The right doors open. The wrong ones close without explanation. The confusion starts to fade and the clarity starts to rise. Because you're no longer operating from a place of desperation, you're operating from a place of direction. And that's the difference between chaos and calling. It's not about fixing everything overnight. It's about taking one step at a time, one decision at a time, one prayer at a time. And saying, God, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing. I'm not there yet, but I'm on my way. Just don't let me go back to who I was. Keep shaping me, molding me, and preparing me for what you've already prepared for me. We live in a loud world. A world that never stops talking. Every time you open your phone, somebody's got something to say about who you should be, what you should want, how you should dwell, and what you should do next. And if you're not careful, you'll spend your whole life listening to voices that were never meant to guide you. You'll chase dreams that were never yours. You'll wear labels that were never placed on you by God. You'll start performing instead of living, reacting instead of becoming. But I came to tell you today, you've got to silence the noise and strengthen the voice within. There's a voice in you that's not like the others. It doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't demand the spotlight. It speaks in stillness. It speaks in wisdom. And it speaks with authority. That voice is the one God placed inside you before the world ever had an opinion. It's the voice that reminds you of who you are when the world tries to make you forget. It's the voice that tells you to stand firm when everything around you says to give up. But that voice can't compete with the noise. You've got to make space to hear it.
Just have to connect my laptop. And excellent.
When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it the pile of work awaiting you? The long list of things you have to do? The challenges you might face? Or do you find yourself rushing to get out of bed and start the day, leaving little time for anything else? The truth is, too often we let the noise of the world drown out the quiet whisper of peace and gratitude that could be ours if we took a moment to pause. But my friends, there is something incredibly powerful that happens when we begin our day by simply stopping for just a moment to thank God for what we've been given. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's an attitude, and it's one that can transform your day. When you take the time to give thanks, you're not only acknowledging the blessings you've received, but also the one who has given them to you. Gratitude opens your heart to God's presence and His provision. It shifts your focus away from what you don't have and instead directs your eyes to all that God has already given you. It's in that simple moment of saying thank you to the Lord that you are reminded that you are not alone in this journey. Now, It's easy to think of gratitude only in terms of big things, the roof over your head, the health you've been blessed with, your family, your job. But what about the little things? What about the simple gift of a new day? What about the breath in your lungs, the sun rising, or the quiet stillness of the morning? Every single one of these is a gift, and yet so often we overlook them. The world moves fast, and it's easy to get caught up in the rush of everything we have to do. But when we start our day with gratitude, we are reminded that even in the midst of the busyness, God is present and He is faithful. Think about this for a moment. When you wake up and the first thing you do is pray, you are acknowledging that you need God, that without Him, you can do nothing. You are humbling yourself before Him, thanking Him for His love and mercy, and in return, He fills your heart with peace. You see, gratitude shifts your mindset. It takes you from a place of lack to a place of abundance. Instead of looking at your day with dread or fear of the unknown, you look at it with a heart of thankfulness for what you have. You realize that every moment is a gift, and every step you take is guided by God's hand. Starting your day with gratitude also sets the tone for the rest of your day. It prepares you for whatever comes your way. It doesn't matter what obstacles might arise, because when you are filled with gratitude, you approach life differently. You face challenges with a different perspective, one that sees beyond the immediate struggles and focuses on the bigger picture, the purpose behind the day. You begin to realize that even in difficult moments, there is something to be thankful for. Maybe it's the strength to face those challenges, or maybe it's the lessons you'll learn along the way. But gratitude helps you see God's hand in it all. It also teaches you to slow down. In our fast-paced world, we often rush from one task to the next, barely taking a breath in between. But when we start our day with gratitude, we allow ourselves to pause and appreciate the moment. It's a reminder that life is not just about what we do, but also about how we live in the moments between. It's a reminder that God is with us in every step, in every conversation, and in every challenge. And when we begin our day in this way, we start to recognize His presence in everything around us. Friends, I encourage you to take a moment each morning, even if it's just for a few seconds, to thank God for the gift of a new day. Thank Him for the breath in your lungs, for the strength in your body, for the opportunities that lie ahead. Thank Him for the small things that often go unnoticed. Because when you start your day with gratitude, you set yourself up for a day filled with peace, purpose, and His guidance. And as you go through the day, let that gratitude carry you. Let it be a reminder that no matter what happens, you are never alone. And you have a God who is faithful. Who loves you and who is always with you. So, my friends, let's begin each day with a heart of gratitude. Let's start each morning by thanking God for His faithfulness and His presence. Let's allow that gratitude to shape the way we view our day and the way we live our lives. Because when we start with thanks, we open the door to God's peace and His power to guide us through whatever the day may bring. And with that, we can face anything with confidence, knowing that God is with us every step of the way. As you begin your day, you are standing on the precipice of an unknown journey. The hours ahead are filled with decisions, opportunities, and challenges that you cannot always predict. But there is one